Yo, guys, here at Urb'n Barz, I normally will talk about music, but today I am talking once again about Keir Starmer. I was almost going to call him Keir Hardy, but I think that would be an affront to Keir Hardy people. So Keir Starmer again has now come out from his Cobra meeting, and this one is titled "The PM says a standing army of specialist police officers will be set up to deal with the riots." So, guys, let's check out what he's got to say, and I'm going to interject with some thoughts. Let's take it away.
I had a Cobra meeting this morning, which was an opportunity that I took to thank the police for their work over the last few days, to express my support for the police officers who have been injured and the communities impacted by this mindless thuggery.
So again, he's repeated mindless thuggery. So let him speak.
There are a number of actions that came out of the meeting. The first is we will have a standing army of specialist officers, public duty officers, so that we'll have enough officers to deal with this where we need them.
So already Sir Keir Starmer, and I think it's really important to listen to the language and the use and words, semantics of how these politicians speak. So Sir Keir Starmer said he has, or he's going to get a standing army of officers. So is he looking to go to war with the people of this country? A standing army of officers. They don't use words lightly, people. Trust me on that. I don't really listen to the news as much as I used to, but I just know that the use of words is really important. So when you watch a news reports, when you watch a news feed, or where you see something on the internet, just really pay close attention to the words these people use. So I'm going to rewind that. He said a standing army.
There are a number of actions that came out of the meeting. The first is we will have a standing army of specialist officers, public duty officers, so that we'll have enough officers to deal with this where we need them. The second is we'll ramp up criminal justice. There have already been hundreds of arrests. Some have appeared in court this morning. I've asked for early consideration of the earliest naming and identification of those involved in the process.
So he said he's going to ramp up the criminal justice. He's going to ramp up those people who've been arrested. He's going to push them through, fast track them through the system. So how is it that they're prioritizing people who are protesting against people who are doing even worse crimes? I don't get that, people, and I think it's a question that you, the people, should be asking to your local MPs and to all the authorities, etc. So where there are cases of people who have been in more serious, I don't really want to say too much about what those issues are, why is it that these are being prioritized? Is it because we are threatening the status quo? That's a question to ask yourself, people.
Who will feel the full force of the law. And thirdly, I've been absolutely clear that the criminal law applies online as well as offline.
And this is something that we really need to look at. So he's saying, Sir Keir Starmer, that the criminal law applies online as well as offline. So there is a real push to censor what we say, what we do online. At the minute, it's a bit of a grey area, people, about what is said and what is printed online, etc. Of course, incitement is something that no one really wants to see online. But if you start to express an opinion about someone, you don't swear about the person. You can just say, look, I disagree with Sir Keir Starmer, for instance. Someone could take your words and use them against you. Words are very powerful, but it's people who manipulate the use of words against you who are even more powerful. So you need to be very careful, people, about the usage of words and the meaning of words, because they can twist the meaning of your words against you. So this is what they're trying to do. So all of these areas we're looking at, like the protests, etc., you have to look at the wider picture, people. There is a much wider picture here. And the wider picture here is going to be the curtailing of our civil liberties. The curtailing of our civil liberties to speak out. I'm very pro freedom of speech. But they do not like freedom of speech, because freedom of speech means you can question what people like Sir Keir Starmer is doing with his standing army of officers. He's going to use against the people. Really? Guys, really? Honestly, this thing about the online is probably the scariest thing about what Sir Keir Starmer said so far, because they are, and they will have the ability to go back and trawl back through all of your accounts from day one, and to look and to sift for anything they can use as criminal evidence against you. So you need to be very careful about what you say and what you're doing. And he's right in a way when he says online and offline, the criminal law will apply in the same way against you. So you have to be very, very careful about what you say and what you do. But I'm an advocate of freedom of speech. But this is the thing they'll use against us. And what they're trying to do is to stop people from voicing any sort of opinion whatsoever. Unless you toe the line that they're rolling out, you ain't going to get no free speech, people. Trust me on that.
Assured that that's the approach that is being taken. Whatever the apparent motivation, this is not protest. It is pure violence.
Do you see this? So he said, this is not protest, this is pure violence. That is absolute rubbish. So for instance, if there were 10,000 people protesting, how many people were involved in actual violence? This is, again, the way he's twisting the use of language. I would bet you 100 quid, just say £100, that the majority of people were protesting peacefully. There were potentially a handful of people who got involved in violence, but I can't say for the reasons whys and wherefores. I haven't seen who's been agitating against them or who's been manipulating them or stirring people up. It could be done from both sides, people. So it's very pertinent uses of language, which our man has just said here. He said it's mindless violence, and he said it wasn't protest. Really? Guys, let me know in the comment section. What is his definition of protesting?
We will not tolerate attacks on mosques or our Muslim communities. So the full force of the law will be visited on all those who are identified as having taken part in these activities.
Prime Minister, how quickly can this army of specialist officers you've just told us about bring these violent protests to an end? And where people are apprehended, do we have the courts to process them or the prison cells to put them in?
In relation to the police, I'm absolutely clear that we will have the officers we need where we need them to deal with this disorder. And that is why the standing army has been set up, specialist officers ready to be deployed to support communities.
Is that about the third time or fourth time he's used the word standing army?
On the question of prisons, firstly, we're monitoring it on a daily basis. I'm appalled that we've been put in this position by the previous government, that it's even a discussion, it's even a question that you have to ask me. But we will make this work and ensure that we've got the places that are needed to bring the perpetrators swiftly to justice. So on both those fronts, I'm confident that we can absolutely make sure that those engaged in this activity do feel the full force of the law.
Guys, I am really incensed about this. So how is it that today they can find spaces in prison for people who have been protesting? Yes, some people have been arrested for violent action, etc. So, for instance, those people will feel the full force of the law. But I know for a fact that people have not been sent to prison for violent crimes not associated with protesting. So for affray, assault, even other areas of assault, which I don't really want to go into. So the assault of women, this, that and the third, blah, blah, blah. For muggings, burglaries, this, that and everything else. So some of them haven't even gone to court because the CPS say, oh, well, there's not enough space in court. It's probably not going to get a conviction, this, that and everything else. So how can Sir Keir Starmer say they are going to create a swathe of places a swathe of prison places for people who've been protesting, whereas they were saying there's no space in the jails whatsoever at the minute. So a lot of people who probably should be going to jail are getting off scot-free. We are the people, we are the public. We are the people that Sir Keir Starmer should be serving. It shouldn't be the other way around. Remember, these people are meant to serve us. And a lot of people are very angry with the situation that's going on. If someone assaulted me, did a crime against me, and got away with it because there isn't enough prison spaces, I am going to be extremely fuming, people, to think that this man can clear space in prisons because people have been protesting. It shouldn't work that way. The law should be seen to be equal, and it should be dealt out and served equally. I'm fuming with that, people. I'm sorry. I don't know how you feel. Let me know in the comments section. But that has got and pushed my buttons, people. I've seen too much of that. How can you clear space where you say there are no spaces? Doesn't make sense.